The year I died was the year I loved him the most. Pay County. To comfort his white moonlight. Locked me in the basement for an entire day and night. Later, the electric wires short-circuited, and a fire broke out. I suffocated inside. With my last glance before death, I saw a young man holding a stool, madly smashing open the lock on the door, rushing to my side. The fire scorched his clothes, but he didn't care. Who was he? I couldn't remember. I only knew that, in the end, I died in his arms. After I died, my soul lingered beside the boy. The fire grew stronger, but he held me tightly, not moving. I screamed at him, telling him to run. Are you just going to wait here to die? But I knew he couldn't hear a ghost's cries. Finally, the fire truck arrived, and a dozen firefighters carried him out together. So, I finally left that damned basement. Outside, the sun was bright. It was a good day. I saw Pay County, pacing anxiously outside the villa, grabbing people and asking, did the girl in the basement make it out? Oh, he still didn't know I was dead. You see, this boy I liked for 10 years, even as I was swallowed by flames, didn't dare rush in to save my life. My body was still held in the young man's arms. Ignoring everyone, he walked straight to a black car, opened the door, and placed me in the passenger seat, even thoughtfully fastening the seatbelt for my lifeless body. Then, the car sped off, leaving the villa behind. With the dead girl in his arms, the boy fled. Like a scene straight out of a movie, we left the city. The scenery outside slowly turned into fields and villages. Then the beach. He arrived at the sea, an undeveloped, deserted shore. Finally, the car stopped. He carried me out, walking slowly into the depths of the ocean until we both sank beneath the water. He said, Jiang-hee, I am Lin Zhou. Do you remember me? Could it be a confession? Confession. Confession. I opened my eyes and found myself standing in a high school classroom, surrounded by 17 or 18-year-old classmates. A girl pushed me and said, Jiang-hee, is that a love letter in your hand? A crumpled piece of paper was twisted in my grip, the envelope addressed neatly to Pay County. I had returned to the day in high school when I confessed to Pay County. It was Friday afternoon, nearly time for dismissal. In 5 minutes, Pay County would enter the classroom, and I would hand him this letter in front of everyone. What did he say back then? Oh, he said, sorry, I don't want to date right now. No. I shook my head. You got it wrong. Just then, Pay County entered from the doorway. Someone called out, Pay County, Jiang-hee wants to talk to you. In a teasing tone, I tore the letter in half and calmly said, it's nothing. Everyone's just joking. I tossed the shredded paper into the trash. Pay County looked at me for a moment, then returned to his seat. The onlookers sighed in disappointment. Oh, I thought there was going to be some drama. Guess not. I flipped through my book, waiting for the end of the day. Everyone was happily packing up, but I had a vague feeling that I'd forgotten something. Maybe, back then, it wasn't important, so it got buried in the river of memories. Until the homeroom teacher entered. I suddenly remembered. It was him. The classmates muttered, look at the time. It's almost dismissal. Our homeroom teacher frowned. Our school was a private elite institution, attended mostly by the wealthy, so he had a hard time managing the students. He gestured to someone outside the door. Come in. He walked into the classroom. Lin Zhou, I remembered. He was a transfer student who joined in senior year from another city. He always wore a washed-out uniform and carried an old, worn-out backpack, different from the opulent style of everyone else. Perhaps because of that, he rarely spoke and was often isolated, always sitting at the back, working through practice problems. But his grades were excellent, consistently in the top 3, especially in subjects like physics, where he almost always scored full marks. Lin Zhou bent slightly and introduced himself. My name is Lin Zhou. Zhou, as in water can carry a boat or capsize it. I transferred here from Chu City. The teacher nodded, pointing to an empty seat in the back. You can sit there. Lin Zhou walked slowly across the room to his seat behind me. He carefully placed his books on the desk, looking a bit nervous but also a little lost. It was fine, though. At 17, we still had time, a chance to start over. After the teacher left, the class grew noisy again. everyone turning back to look at Lin Zhou with curiosity. A notorious troublemaker named Fu Sheng walked over and asked him, Chu City, that's the coal mining city nearby. Right. My family has a business around here as well. What's your father's name? Maybe my parents know him. Lin Zhou pinched his fingertips. A bit flustered, he murmured, my dad doesn't run a business. He just. Could he be digging coal down in the mines? Fu Sheng picked up where he left off and laughed. Around here, plenty of people learned early on to fawn over the rich and look down on the poor. Many found it amusing and came over to watch. Making Fu Sheng even more smug, he picked up Lin Zhou's book and sniffed it. It really does have a musty smell, he sneered. Laughter rang out, cold and mocking. I couldn't stand it anymore. I stood up and splashed water from my cup over Fu Sheng's head. What are you? A dog? Sniffing like that? Fu Sheng glared at me, soaked and humiliated. He rolled up his sleeves and angrily shouted, Jiang He, are you looking to die? Sorry, but I already have. Maybe the Jiang He from high school was shy and reserved, but not the Jiang He who had lived for 28 years. I smiled. Yeah, looking to die. But we didn't end up fighting. Pei County walked over, frowning as he looked at me. What's wrong with you today? Go home. Pei County was the class monitor, and his family was the most influential in the entire southern city. Naturally, Fu Sheng wouldn't pick a fight with him. Yet, seeing Pei County only made me remember that towering inferno and the suffocating smoke that choked me to death. I told him, let's not go home together anymore. I'm staying to do problems and prepare for the college entrance exam. Pei County huffed, giving me a strange look. Jiang He, what's gotten into you? Just don't want to see you anymore. I pointed to the classroom door. Can you not disturb my studies? There's someone waiting for you outside. The class beauty from the next class. He Shermeng. Pei County. He Shermeng. And I grew up together. Our families did business together and often interacted. I used to think Pei County treated me well, calling me little sister he. But of course, he only saw me as a sister. The one he liked was always He Shermeng. He Shermeng waved from the doorway, calling, Peiji, what are you two talking about? Are you coming or not? Pei County glanced at me, tapping his finger on my desk. If physics is too hard, I can tutor you over the weekend. Then he grabbed his bag and headed toward He Shermeng. In the end, it was just Lin Zhou and me left in the classroom. The clock ticked on, and behind me, I heard the faint scratching of Lin Zhou's pen on his notebook. My impression of him had always been that of a diligent student. But Lin Zhou, I wonder, what do you see when you look at me? I turned around, resting my hand on the back of my chair, studying him closely. His eyebrows and mouth started to blend with the image of that man holding me in the fire. He said, Jiang He, I'm Lin Zhou. Do you remember me? I must have been staring too intently because Lin Zhou looked up, touching his chin and cautiously asking, is there something on my face? I quickly shook my head, stammering, no, nothing. Awkward. To break the tension, I grabbed a physics practice book from my desk, turned to a page, and put it in front of him. Could you help me with this problem? Lin Zhou's face immediately relaxed. He glanced at the problem and said, this one isn't too hard. Simple as it was, I still didn't understand it. My physics was atrocious, always dragging my scores down. He took out a sheet of paper, scribbling 2 equations. It's just like this, then this, and then this. Got it. I responded with a long he smiled. How about I help you build a foundation first? He must have noticed my blank expression, realizing my real level. He closed the practice book, took out his textbook, and said softly, let's start from chapter 1. Lin Zhou's tutoring was better than my rigid high school teacher or any cram school. In my past life, I followed behind Pei County, pestering him with all sorts of questions. Pei County, can you go over the kinetic energy theorem? Pei County, why can't I ever solve the last problem in math? Pei County, I'm so frustrated. No wonder he often gave me a cold look and said, are you an idiot? Jiang He? You're hopeless. Until the school security guard came by, standing in the doorway and shouting at us. What are you two doing here so late? Isn't it time to go home? Only then did Lin Zhou and I realize it was nearly 8 p.m. and the school was about to close. We quickly packed up our bags, apologizing as we ran out. At the school gate, a car honked nearby. It was my family's driver, Uncle Zhang, who had come to pick me up. He rolled down the window, calling, "Miss He, hurry up. Your mom's waiting for you at home for dinner." Uncle Zhang gave me a sharp look. Not very pleased. I quickly opened the door. But before getting in, I turned back to Lin Zhou. "Lin Zhou, it's late. Do you need a ride home?" "No, my house is far. Out in the west suburbs. It's not on your way." He flashed that awkward, slightly stiff smile. "Besides, there's still a bus at this hour. It's convenient." Lin Zhou waved at me and jogged toward the bus stop. The west suburbs were far. The bus ride took over an hour. I'd only been there once. It wasn't fully developed yet. Everywhere there are old low-rise buildings, with garbage piled up on the ground. I called out to him, "Lin Zhou." He turned his head around, and I asked, "Do you know my name?" "Under the streetlight." His face was slightly flushed. I said, "My name is Jiang He, the Jiang for ginger, and the He for seedling. Remember it well. Although I've traveled back in time, none of my high school academic knowledge came with me. It's truly a tragedy. Adding to that, I was just an average student in terms of intelligence. So now I have no choice but to hunch over my desk on weekends, poring over high school textbooks, where almost every line is filled with notes. I'm not smart, but I've always been diligent." Just as I was immersed in the material, my phone rang, startling me. It was He Meng. She sent a photo on WeChat, a picture of the library study room with several books and 2 cups of milk tea on a desk, along with an unhappy emoji. "Little He, come keep me company. It's boring studying on the weekend, and I'm not even a cultural studies student. Are you coming?" He Meng is a dance major. Pei County sure is something. I never thought his brain would be wired this way, taking someone to the library for a date. I replied simply, "No." She didn't reply again. I went back to my studies, but as I continued, my head felt like mush. I missed how clearly Lin Zhou had explained things to me that afternoon. I opened my phone, downloaded the recently updated contact list from the class group chat, found Lin Zhou's number, and called him. He answered quickly. "Lin Zhou," I said. "Jiang He." He hesitated. I laughed. "I was working on some problems and thought of you. Hope I'm not disturbing you." We talked about all sorts of things, the strictest teachers in class, the ones with a bit of favoritism, and some school legends and gossip that had been around for ages but that Lin Zhou had never heard before. He kept responding, occasionally joining in with exaggerated exclamations, fully satisfying my storytelling urge. He really was a gentle person. But why can't I remember when and where I had crossed paths with him before? We chatted for quite a while before hanging up. I then opened my social media feed and noticed that Pei County had unusually posted an update. "Reviewed some physics concepts today. Quite rewarding." The picture showed part of a physics workbook, with a flood of likes and comments. "Class monitor. Teach us. Physics is so hard. Wow. Even the top student is studying seriously now. Pei County. Few improve anymore. You'll score 200 points." Before Lin Zhou transferred to our class, Pei County had always ranked first, his score far ahead of the second place. But once Lin Zhou arrived, Pei County's position began to waver. With the two of them constantly taking turns as first and second, the rest of the class loved to watch the rivalry between these two academic champions. However, from what I remember, Pei County and Lin Zhou hadn't exchanged more than 10 sentences and weren't particularly close. I felt a bit guilty for bothering Lin Zhou for so long, so that evening, I rummaged through the kitchen for ingredients and baked a box of cookies to give him as a gift. In the past, I'd often tinkered with these little things, even bringing my baked goods for Pei County to try. However, I once visited his office and accidentally saw a drawer full of my cookies, barely touched and some even moldy. Only then did I realize he never really liked the things I made. My mom heard me in the kitchen and came down, frowning. "Pei County doesn't even like these. Can't you make something else?" "Who says this is for Pei County?" I said, proudly lifting my head as I packed the cookies in a box. "It's for a new classmate." Mom gave me a strange look, clicking her tongue in surprise. The next day during break, I turned around and placed the cookies on Lin Zhou's desk. He carefully opened the box, his eyes lighting up, looking both surprised and delighted. yet a little unsure. He said, "Jiang-hee, you're the first to ever make me cookies. How nice it feels to have my work appreciated." Just then, Pei County came out of the teacher's office with a stack of papers. As he passed by, he paused, glanced at us, and suddenly asked, "Did you make those cookies?" He startled both Lin Zhou and me. Pei County stared at the cookies for a moment and said, "Jiang-hee, didn't you once say you'd never give your handmade treats to anyone?" I scratched my head, remembering that when I chased after Pei County in high school, I did say something like, "Pei County, no one else will ever taste my handmade treats." How silly of me, I thought, feeling a bit embarrassed as I lowered my head, not wanting to talk to him. Since I didn't respond, Pei County turned his attention to Lin Zhou instead. "I hear you're good at physics," he remarked, placing the papers on the desk as if choosing a random topic. Lin Zhou shook his head modestly. "Not really. Just average." "No need to be so modest." Pei County pulled out a paper from the stack and handed it to him. 98 points, quite high. This was your entrance test paper when you transferred, right? I just picked it up from the office along with the quiz results. I leaned over to look. Apart from a few points deducted on the last problem, the rest were all perfect scores. Pei County pointed to the marked problem and said, "This is a physics competition question. Take another look at it." In my past life, Pei County always had private lessons with outside tutors for subjects like physics. Preparing for the physics competition, he eventually won an award, which even boosted his college entrance exam score. Seeing my attentive listening, he flicked my forehead and asked, "Jiang-hee, do you understand?" Annoyed, I glared at Pei County. "Don't underestimate me. Don't think I can't make progress." Unexpectedly, his smile softened a bit. "Why didn't you come to the library this weekend? Didn't I say I'd help you with your questions?" This was the first time he said something like that, but I shook my head. "If I don't understand, I'll just ask Lin Zhou. He sits right behind me." Pei County's expression froze. He glanced at me, then at Lin Zhou, but said nothing. Holding his papers, he walked away, stopping only a few steps away to turn back and say coolly, "Jiang-hee, Shermeng's party next Saturday, you have to show up." Right. Shermeng's celebration party would be a turning point. Shermeng was an art major, so her academic requirements were low. As long as she did reasonably well, she could get into a decent school. In my last life, she outdid herself and received offers from a few reputable dance schools. Her father threw a banquet at a 5-star hotel to celebrate, even giving her 2 days off to party with friends, with the condition that she couldn't stay out overnight. Her dad's rule made sense. Shermeng had many friends from all walks of life. She rented a luxury suite in a KTV for the party, and I went as well. There were classmates from our school and some friends from her external art classes. The atmosphere was chaotic and noisy. Pei County and Shermeng were at the center, being cheered on to sing a duet. Near midnight, my mom video called me. Shermeng saw the caller ID and said, "Your mom went shopping with mine today. They're probably at your place playing mahjong now." I turned off my phone. "Don't answer, or she'll definitely try to drag me home through you." But I was the obedient type, so I answered. As expected, it was my mom and Shermeng's mom. Shermeng's mom, with her loud voice, scolded us over the noise. "Shermeng, do you know what time it is? Are you coming home or not? Tell me where you are. I'll send the family driver to pick you up." Shermeng rolled her eyes and grumbled, "Mom, stop nagging. Let me have one night of fun after exams. I'm not going to get hurt." The two of them argued back and forth, until finally, her mom declared, "If you don't come home tonight, don't expect your allowance next month." Shermeng, who got a hefty monthly allowance of 50,000 yuan, fell silent at that. She ended the call, mumbling about her night being ruined. Pei County then walked us downstairs and waited with us in the lobby until Uncle Zhang arrived to pick us up. Shermeng didn't speak to Pei County the entire time. She was upset. During the call with her mom, she had signaled to him, hoping he would say something on her behalf, even just to reassure her mom by saying he'd look after her tonight. Shermeng's mom adored Pei County and even had hopes of pairing them up, so if Pei County had said something, her mom might have agreed. But he remained distant and indifferent that night, leaving Shermeng with no choice but to come home with me. She stomped her foot in frustration and muttered angrily, "You two are the worst. Totally ruined the fun." On the way home that night, we got into a car accident. The traffic police later concluded that it was Uncle Zhang's fault due to drunk driving. He took full responsibility. Meng and I spent half a month in the hospital. Her injuries were worse than mine, with ligament damage in her leg that would keep her from dancing for years. Her mother wept bitterly by her bedside, promising Uncle Zhang he'd pay for this with his life. He faced legal consequences and paid compensation, but no amount of money could mend what was broken. This accident was a turning point. Without it, Meng would have stayed in the country, and the three of us would have continued our friendship as it was in high school. A few years later, Pei County might have ended up with Meng. It would have hurt me, but after crying it out, I would have gladly given them my blessing and moved on with my own life. But that accident changed everything. Meng abandoned dance school and went abroad to study art. Pei County and I went to the same city for university and saw each other occasionally. He knew I had feelings for him, but his most frequent words to me were, "Jianghe, do you really think you're doing right by Meng?" Guilt haunted both of us. He would fly across half of China to buy almond cookies from Macau for Meng and mail them overseas. He'd also set his alarm and stay up late to get Jay-Chou concert tickets for her, just because she mentioned wanting to see him live. And gifts for holidays, birthdays, and anniversaries were never missed. Later, after living abroad for a few years, Meng returned to China, and Pei County gathered their old friends to throw a celebration for her. The party lasted until dawn. After singing a song, Meng suddenly held the microphone and asked me, "Jianghe, you've been graduated for so many years, does your mom still care if you come home at night?" That moment, the air grew eerily silent. I knew she had never truly forgiven me. Pei County helplessly called her, "Meng, Pei, don't interrupt me," she snapped, having had a bit to drink. Her tone grew aggressive. "Jianghe, aren't you the obedient one? You don't fit in with us anyway. Why not lock you up in a little room on your own? You'd probably be happier there." She clung onto Pei County's arm, her voice sweet yet mocking. I had no words, feeling an urge to argue but also guilt that silenced me. Pei County sighed, glanced at me, then took out the key and locked me in the basement with Meng's assistance. Meng tapped on the basement door and laughed, calling, "Jianghe, I'll let you out when the party's over." I didn't know why her party went on for so long, but I only knew that a fire broke out. In this new life, I wouldn't let the tragedy happen again. I knew it was almost impossible to stop Meng from celebrating her exam results, so I chose not to attend myself. Without me, Uncle Zhang wouldn't drive to pick us up. On Saturday night, Pei County called, asking, "When are you coming over?" It was noisy on his end, and I barely made out his words. "I'm not going. I'm studying," I said. After a brief silence, Pei County coldly replied, "Suit yourself," and hung up. I figured that my reputation as a hard-working bookworm was now firmly established. Around midnight, I went downstairs and saw Uncle Zhang in the kitchen, video calling an old friend from his military days, chatting and drinking. He waved when he saw me. "Xiaohe, why aren't you asleep yet?" I opened my mouth, hesitant, but eventually said, "Uncle Zhang, you're getting older now. Maybe drink a little less in the future." In the living room, a few ladies were cheerfully playing mahjong. Meng's mom had just won a hand, and her luck was strong. She glanced at the time and suddenly remembered, "Oh, Meng went out to celebrate tonight. I wonder if she's back yet. Let me give her a call." But her phone was off, and every call went unanswered. One of her friends playfully teased, "It's your turn to deal. Winning money and now you're running away." Meng's lying in bed. I watched the clock as time passed by. The night outside was calm, just like any other. Slowly, I drifted into sleep. The next morning, my mom woke me up. "Jianghe, come down for breakfast." It was only 8 o'clock. Groggy, I grabbed my phone and started scrolling through my feed. One of my classmates had posted, "Our school beauty and top student perfect match." The photo was of Pei County and Meng. They were both dozing on the sofa, Meng's head gently resting on Pei County's shoulder, likely worn out from the late party. Sensing the gossip potential, someone had snapped a picture and shared it online. leading to numerous teasing comments below. I knew something was going on between them. Our school's top-tier couple. Seeing the photo, I instantly woke up. Sitting up in bed. The car accident really hadn't happened. Shermang hadn't left the celebration. And everything was fine. Excited. I quickly liked the post and added, "This is wonderful." But moments later, when I refreshed, the post was gone. Pei County then called me. "Jiang he said in an inexplicably gentle tone. "Last night things got pretty wild. I left midway and didn't join the rest of the fun. I didn't know why he told me that." He chuckled. "I thought you'd come. If I'd known you weren't going, I wouldn't have gone either." I scratched my nose, unsure how to respond. After a pause, I said, "If there's nothing else, I'm going to have breakfast." He replied, "See you at school tomorrow." Though the photo had been deleted, rumors spread quickly, especially since many classmates had attended Shermang's party. On Monday, I could feel the buzz of gossip among everyone, but I kept out of it. After all, the monthly exams were coming up, and it was Lin Zhou's first major exam since transferring schools. The homeroom teacher made a suspenseful announcement about the rankings. "We have a dark horse in the class this time. Competition is what drives improvement." "Right." He paused. Lin Zhou came first in the grade. The class erupted. For the first time, top-ranking Pei County had been overtaken. Lin Zhou, the transfer student who barely spoke to any of us, had emerged as a rival just before the college entrance exams. Although I already knew Lin Zhou's capabilities, that didn't stop me from feeling excited. I turned around, reaching out in excitement to ruffle Lin Zhou's hair. "Lin Zhou, you're amazing." His hair became a mess, but he wasn't upset, he just smiled gently. My desk mate, however, couldn't stand it and nudged me with an elbow. "Jiang, keep it down," he said, giving me a look. "Can't you see that the class monitor is unhappy?" Following his gaze, I saw Peixian sitting by the wall, looking over at me and Lin Zhou with a cold stare. His lips pressed into a thin line, almost frozen into a statue. I suddenly felt a chill, realizing my lack of empathy. Peixian had been the top student for nearly 3 years, and now, he'd fallen to second place. Anyone would be upset in his position, and here I was, laughing without a care. Wasn't that like rubbing salt in the wound? I coughed twice, lowering my excitement a bit. And eventually, Peixian's gaze moved away from me. I breathed a sigh of relief. Thanks to Lin Zhou's tutoring, my grades had improved significantly, and now, every Friday after school, I'd voluntarily stay and study with him for another 2 hours, benefiting from his guidance. Unexpectedly, Peixian also stayed behind. When the bell rang, Shermang came running to our classroom door. "Pei, let's go home." She waved at him as she used to. But Peixian didn't respond or pack up. Instead, he told her, "You go ahead. I'm staying a bit longer to study." Everyone who hadn't left yet turned to look. "Class monitor, isn't that a bit much? You already have a guaranteed spot, no need to stress us out." Thanks to an award in the Olympiad, Peixian's target university had lowered his required score by 60 points. So even if he didn't do his best, he was assured admission. Peixian ignored them, waited until everyone left, and then moved his books over to sit next to me. Surprised, I asked, Peixian replied naturally, "You're closer to Lin Zhou here, so it's easier for us to discuss problems together." That left me speechless. Should I give you 2 top students some space then? But before I could say more, Peixian took out a question and started discussing it with Lin Zhou. "Lin, do you have a simpler solution for this problem? I feel like I'm overthinking it." Glancing over, I realized it was a question I had gotten wrong on the test. So, I obediently stayed silent and listened as the 2 of them exchanged academic ideas, taking in their wisdom. By the end of the evening study session, I felt as though my brain cells were in overdrive. Peixian and Lin Zhou often had different problem-solving approaches, and their discussions sparked new insights. Around 8 p.m., Peixian tapped me on the head with his book. "Jiang, time to go home." I snapped back to reality. "Right. Let's go." Since I'd let my mom know that I'd be studying at school on Friday nights, she arranged for Uncle Zhang to pick me up 2 hours later. Lin Zhou continued to insist on taking the bus home, never allowing me to give him a ride. This time, though, Peixian joined us. Despite being a rich second-generation heir, he didn't have a family car pick him up. Pei Xian rubbed his nose and shamelessly looked at me. Let Uncle Zhang give me a ride home. Didn't our families take turns picking us up after school back in the day? I rolled my eyes. Class monitor. Can't you learn from Lin Zhou and take the bus home? It's more eco-friendly. Pei Xian ignored my reasoning. Or should I call your mom and tell her you left me stranded at the school gate in the middle of the night? Defeated, I climbed into the back seat, with Uncle Zhang driving quietly in the front. Suddenly, Pei Xian asked, Zhang He, the college entrance exams are only a few months away. Have you decided where you want to go? His question reminded me to start considering my future plans. I wanted to go south to see the sea, but in my past life, I chose a northern university just to follow Pei Xian. Not that the city was bad, it just didn't suit me. Pei Xian noticed my silence and softly added, When you decide, let me know. He took a deep breath, as if steeling himself, then looked at me with determination. I want to go to the same city as you. I was taken aback. Don't you already have a top university lined up with a guaranteed spot? More importantly, that school also provides Pei Jia with extensive networking resources. Most of his friends and relatives graduated from there. He really has no reason to change his target school now. He shook his head without answering my question, simply repeating, Jiang He, we need to be in the same city in the future. I wasn't interested in being in the same city as Pei Xian. That night, curled up under my blanket, I texted Lin Zhou. Hey Lin, have you decided which university you want to apply to? After sending it, I realized how pointless my question was. With Lin Zhou's grades, he could practically choose any school he wanted. He replied quickly, Not yet. What about you? I typed back while imagining, I want to go somewhere warm and humid, where I can see the sea. He responded, Coincidentally, so do I. This guy was clearly copying me. In my past life, I worked hard in high school largely so I could go to the same place as Pei Xian. But this time, I wanted to work hard for myself. In the second semester of senior year, the class atmosphere started becoming more serious. The countdown to the college entrance exams weighed heavily on everyone. Even at our private high school, the principal organized a motivational rally, inviting the top-ranking students to give speeches about their study and test-taking experiences. Naturally, Pei Xian and Lin Zhou, the top academic achievers, were selected as student speakers. I remembered this rally as boring to death. Last time, I endured until Pei Xian's turn, listened to his articulate speech, and then couldn't take any more and slipped out to take a walk on the sports field. I had no recollection of Lin Zhou's speech. Maybe I missed it by leaving early. I regretted it a bit now. This time, determined not to miss it, I paid full attention, waiting for Lin Zhou's turn. However, even after Pei Xian finished, and most of the speakers had come and gone, there was still no sign of Lin Zhou. Just then, one of the event organizers from the student council walked by, and I grabbed his arm, asking, Hey, where's Lin Zhou from our class? He didn't go up. He frowned, annoyed. We tried calling him, but he didn't answer. He's messed up the order we set. What's going on? A sense of unease washed over me, and I sprang up, running out of the auditorium. Where could he be? I pulled out my phone to call Lin Zhou, but just as the student council member had said, he didn't pick up after several tries. With the campus so large, I roamed aimlessly between the school buildings, calling his number repeatedly and trying to reassure myself that he wasn't a little kid. He'd be fine. Finally, as I neared the sports field, a sudden memory flooded back. I remembered sneaking out of the rally after Pei Xian's speech in my previous life, walking to the gym, and hearing strange noises and shouts. Out of curiosity, I approached the window and saw some classmates surrounding a boy, punching and kicking him while hurling insults. At the time, driven by a sense of justice, I barged in, pulled the boy out from the group, and snapped, If you keep bullying him, I'll tell the teacher. Thinking back now, I realized that boy was Lin Zhou. I dashed towards the gym, threw open the door, and saw the exact scene from my memory. Lin Zhou surrounded by classmates, with a few troublemakers from our class, including Fu Sheng, standing among them. So what if your family digs coal? You think you're hot stuff because you're good at studying? Want to give a speech on stage? No way. I just can't stand high and mighty types like you. After getting to know Lin Zhou, I realized his school life was harsher than I'd thought. In a school like ours, with tightly knit social cliques, Lin Zhou was an outlier, a quiet, top-performing transfer student from a poor family who didn't belong to any group and often became a target for bullying. In this life, at least, he had me as a friend. I couldn't imagine how lonely he must have felt before. Maybe that's why he appreciated even the smallest kindness. My act of pulling him out of Fushang's grasp last time had clearly left an impression on him. I ignored Fushang and the others, marching up with determination. Jiang He, what are you doing? Playing hero now? This doesn't match the usual script. He sneered. My timing was off too since the rally had ended. Students were starting to gather nearby. Noticing the commotion and peeking in to watch. Seeing the audience, Fushang looked even more excited. Jiang He, I've known for a while that something's up between you two. Admit it. You're into him, right? If it were anyone else, I'd leave Lin Zhou alone. But it had to be you. So, if you admit you like him, I'll apologize. Our school loved gossip, and the surrounding students all began murmuring in excitement. Who's that? Oh, it's Jiang He from class 4. And Lin Zhou, our top student. Lin Zhou tugged at my hand, his face pale. Forget it. Jiang He, don't trouble yourself. There are so many people here. What could he possibly do to me? But I'm the type who can't resist a challenge. I squared my shoulders and said boldly, so what if I like him? Is having a crush a crime? Which school rule says we can't date? Admitting it so openly wasn't as hard as I'd imagined. Everyone looked stunned. No one made a sound, not even the usual cheers from the onlookers. It was Fushang who broke the silence first. Stuttering, Jiang He, a hero among women. What are you doing? Gathering a crowd in the market? That moment, an abrupt voice came from the back of the crowd. It's not even the college entrance exam yet. It was the student council president, who pointed at Fushang and his group, speaking sternly. You're about to graduate, and you're still bullying your fellow students? Haven't you read the school rules? Don't you know that bullying is strictly prohibited at our school? The crowd instinctively parted to make way. The president continued. This is one of the most important rules in our school's code of conduct. Although bullying and exclusion of weaker students happen privately, it rarely reached the school authorities. But this time, Fushang would be in trouble. The president pointed at each of them. You, and you. All of you come with me to the principal's office. After calling out names, the president turned to someone behind him, saying, Pei Xian, I'll go talk to the teacher first. Are you coming? That's when I realized Pei Xian had come with the student council president. He had been standing in the shadows, and I hadn't noticed. Pei Xian shook his head, then suddenly pointed at Lin Zhou. Let Lin Zhou come too. After all, he's the one involved, and he can clarify things. The president nodded and waved his hand, signaling them to take everyone away. Fushang yelled for help. I don't want to see the disciplinary director. The president patted his head. That's not up to you. The onlookers, seeing that the main event was over, quickly dispersed. I had planned to wait for Lin Zhou outside the office, but just as I was about to follow him, someone suddenly grabbed my wrist. It was Pei Xian, looking at me with dark eyes. Jiang He, come with me. I noticed that his face was as pale as paper, and his lips trembled slightly, as though he was holding back some intense emotion. What's going on? I whispered. He grabbed me firmly, not giving me a chance to refuse, and pushed me into a corner. Pei Xian was much taller than me, and now, he was very close, which made the pressure overwhelming. Jiang he frowned, trying to steady his voice. I understand you wanted to help Lin Zhou today, but you could have called a teacher or called me. You didn't need to do it this way. Oh, I see. I realized. He thought I was just trying to help out of kindness, that my confession of liking Lin Zhou was a strategy to help. I smiled. Pei Xian, you're wrong. I didn't help out of the kindness of my heart. I really like Lin Zhou. Pei Xian seemed stunned by my words, frozen for a moment. He didn't say a word for quite a while. His face showed a mixture of pain, panic, and some pity. Suddenly, he took out a torn piece of letter paper from his pocket, carefully holding it out for me to see. Jiang he asked, You're lying to me, aren't you? Where did I go wrong? You can't possibly like Lin Zhou. If you did, how could you write me this letter? It was the love letter I had written to Pei Xian, but I had torn it up and thrown it in the trash. I didn't know how it ended up in Pei Xian's hands. I stared at him, confused. Pei Xian gave a bitter smile and admitted without hesitation. I picked it up from the trash. I admit, at that time, I wasn't sure how much I liked you. I was also afraid that a relationship in senior year would affect my studies. But I never imagined you, Jiang He, would like someone else. Seeing that letter, I felt a strange sense of relief. It seemed like my unrequited love for Pei Xian had ended, and maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. I snatched the letter from his hands, tore it into smaller pieces, and opened the window, throwing the scraps outside. The torn paper fluttered in the wind, never to be put together again. Pei Xian's expression changed, and he rushed to the window, gripping the frame and leaning out. His teeth clenched as he said, Jiang He, from the moment you threw that letter away, you should have known that I don't like you. From now on, don't come to me with anything important. As you said, we all have to focus on the college entrance exam. Right. The next day, when I entered the classroom, I felt that all the students were looking at me. Normally, I wouldn't care. I sat down at my desk and opened my book to study, but it was already morning self-study time, and Lin Zhou still hadn't come. I tapped my deskmate's hand and asked, Where's Lin Zhou? My deskmate gave me a casual glance. You don't know? Because of the mess you caused yesterday, Fu Shang has become the typical case of bullying at the school. He has to make a public apology during morning self-study. Lin Zhou is probably dealing with that with the teacher right now. As we were talking, the loudspeaker in the classroom rang, and the disciplinary director's voice echoed. There has been a very serious bullying incident at the school, and it has had a very bad impact. It is necessary for the students involved to give a deep reflection and apology. Fu Shang and his cohorts, who had once been so arrogant, now looked like defeated eggplants. Each of them apologized in a muffled voice. The students in the class, hearing this, kept their heads down, trying to stifle their laughter. I couldn't help but chuckle as well. The disciplinary director asked Lin Zhou if he accepted their apologies. Lin Zhou calmly responded, I never paid attention to them. They're not on the same level as me. No matter how loudly they act up. What does it matter? I almost wanted to clap for him under the desk, but the next moment, he suddenly turned to me and said, Jiang He, I feel that I should be the one to confess. I like you. I froze. My deskmate spat out his water and stared at me in shock. Wow, you two are feeding us dog food in front of the whole school. As a result, both Lin Zhou and I had to write a self-reflection. But the two of us can grow up openly and hold hands on campus. Although early relationships seem to be detrimental to studying, my boyfriend is the top student in the year. How could I not take advantage of such a big buff? With his companionship and explanations, the science subjects I was monitoring seemed to become more vivid. The whole second semester of senior year didn't seem as hard to endure. Time passed quickly. Then I suddenly realized I hadn't paid attention to Pei Xian in a long time. He no longer stayed behind for self-study during lunch or afternoon breaks. Even when he passed by me and Lin Zhou on campus, he would lower his head and walk past quickly. It seemed like he was really putting into practice the words I had said before no longer bothering me. When the college entrance exam results came out, I was at an internet cafe, teaching Lin Zhou how to last-hit minions. Suddenly, the class group chat exploded with messages. Someone posted a message saying, Help! The exam results are out. Lin Zhou and I immediately stopped everything, logged off, and picked up our phones. I quickly checked my results, and they were 30-40 points higher than my usual scores. Truly an exceptional performance. I shouted excitedly, then looked at Lin Zhou's phone screen. There seemed to be a problem on his end. It looked like a major one. His screen showed 0 points. My hands trembled as I asked quietly, How could this be? Did you forget to write your name? Or was there a mistake with the exam number? Lin Zhou shook his head, his finger slowly moving toward a line of small text at the bottom of the screen. Your rank is in the top 50 of the province. Please check the details soon. I screamed and hugged Lin Zhou. The guy next to us playing games took off his headphones and looked at us with confusion. How many kills did you get to be so excited? My face turned red, and I lowered my voice. Linzhou, which school are you going to apply for? Linzhou smiled, ruffled my hair, and said, I'll discuss it with you later. A famous university in the south gave Linzhou a full scholarship and allowed him to choose his major freely. I was admitted to a nearby teacher's college. Everything seemed to follow the expected path. Except for Pei Xian. A few days before the deadline for submitting college applications, I received a call from Pei Xian's father. Jiang He, can you do me a favor and persuade Pei Xian to apply to University A as planned? I then learned that Pei Xian hadn't performed well on the exam and hadn't met the cutoff for the top national university's business programs. However, with the extra 60 points from University A's special offer, he could still get in. To be honest, I didn't quite understand why Pei Xian's father called me. Firstly, in this situation, why would Pei Xian still hesitate about going to University A? One of the top schools in the country. I couldn't understand that at all. Secondly, as an outsider, what could I persuade him to do? But since Pei Xian's father was an elder, it was hard for me to refuse his request. So, after hanging up, I called Pei Xian. After a long pause, he finally answered. I hesitated for a moment before asking, Pei Xian, haven't you decided which school to apply for yet? Pei Xian's voice sounded tired. For a moment, I felt a sense of frustration and disappointment. Are you out of your mind? What are you thinking? You're going to University A, right? With your level, don't you think it's a waste to go to a regular university? I wasn't sure if I was being too harsh, but for a while, Pei Xian didn't respond. After a long pause, he slowly spoke. Jiang He, I'm afraid if I go too far, you'll forget about me. Jiang He, I want to go to college in the same city as you. So that's how he truly felt. But Pei Xian, there's no need for that. I spoke coldly. If you do this, I'll lose respect for you. Do you want us to stop even being ordinary friends? Pei Xian went to University A, passed his cultural exam smoothly, and was admitted to a dance academy in the same northern city. Linzhou and I were admitted to universities in the south. Everything seemed perfect. There were no accidents, no pain, and no later drama. Our family still had a good relationship and we celebrated together for a few days. Our parents even said they would take us to the airport to see us off to university. At the airport, Linzhou and I were on the same flight, while Shimon was on another flight. One was heading south, the other north. We parted at the gate, and I linked arms with Linzhou, handing him my backpack. Shimon also tried to reach out to Pei Xian's hand, but he subtly moved away, keeping his distance, cold and distant. He looked at me, opened his mouth, but in the end, said nothing. I waved goodbye to them. Goodbye. Maybe we won't meet for a long time. I am a top-tier celebrity. On my daughter's 7th birthday, my childhood sweetheart, Aaron Liu, spent $1 billion to buy a time machine. He said he had regrets. He wanted to travel back 8 years to save his true love, Emily Rong, from drowning, instead of me, his newlywed wife who was pregnant at the time. On this special day, I could only watch helplessly as my daughter, whom I cherished for 7 years, vanished into the timeline. To celebrate the revival of his long-lost love, he filled the entire city with fireworks. The next time I opened my eyes, I found myself reborn to the moment 8 years ago, just before the flood. This time, I mercilessly kicked Aaron into the water and watched calmly as he and Emily swam together in the flood, reenacting a scene from Titanic with their deep affection. Luna, I murmured, jolting awake as if from a long dream. My hands trembled as I cradled my abdomen. Everything around me was so familiar. I had indeed been reborn to the night before the devastating flood 8 years ago. On my daughter Luna's 7th birthday, my husband of 8 years, Aaron Liu, traded her for a time machine worth $1 billion. He told Uncle Lin, I'm willing to spend everything on a time machine if it means I can bring Emily Rong back. She's the love of my life. And with that, Luna vanished before my eyes. No matter how desperately I searched, I couldn't find her. In fact, no one in the world remembered her except me. All they knew was that the powerful CEO, Aaron Liu, was madly in love with his wife Emily, spending a fortune on fireworks to win her smile. For 7 days and nights, the city sky was ablaze with colors. I couldn't find my daughter, nor could I take revenge. I died in despair beneath those dazzling fireworks. Now, I am back on the eve of the flood. My assistant, noticing my condition, grumbled, "Madame Shu, you fainted from pregnancy. And Mr. Liu is still in Emily's tent without coming to see you." I shook my head, unable to stop my tears, feeling a surge of emotion. This time, "Luna, Mommy will protect you." Outside, the rain poured relentlessly. I immediately grabbed my assistant's hand and said, "Tell the villagers to evacuate to higher ground now. A flood is about to break out. And by morning, this place will be submerged." The flood 8 years ago had taken thousands of lives. Now that I was reborn, I would do everything to prevent those deaths. When my assistant turned to leave, I called her back. "Don't disturb Aaron and Emily. Get everyone onto the boats first." In our past life, Aaron regretted saving his pregnant wife instead of Emily during the flood. That's why he paid $1 billion for a time machine, disregarding Luna's life, to change his decision. This time, I would see how he planned to escape. It was the first year of my marriage to Aaron, and also the peak of my fame. I was filming in a remote area when Aaron used the pretext of visiting me to sneak around with Emily, a minor actress. When I went to warn the villagers, I passed by Emily's tent and overheard Aaron's low, husky laughter. He was always cold and indifferent to me, and every time Luna tried to win his favor, she was cruelly rejected. Luna, such a good child, would always blame herself, saying she made Daddy angry. But this obedient little girl was erased from existence by Aaron. No one but me remembered her. Aaron used the time machine to undo the past and bring Emily back, causing Luna's death. How could I not hate him? How could I not resent him? Even outsiders couldn't stand it. "Uncle Lin, Mr. Liu's behavior is too much," the director said, hesitating but clearly sympathetic toward me. I forced a smile, suppressing the hatred boiling in my heart. Young people just like to have fun. I have more important things to take care of. Soon enough, Aaron would no longer have any reason to laugh. Turning to the director, I said, "If you trust me, get everyone onto the boat now." The director, who had collaborated with me many times, believed me. He discreetly started evacuating people. The rain was pouring hard, drumming on the tents. Aaron and Emily were inside, watching Titanic together, laughing and oblivious to the chaos outside. This time, I wouldn't be foolish enough to quit the industry for love. I would protect Luna and reclaim my own success. After a night of hard work, most of the villagers were safely evacuated onto the boat. This boat was originally a prop for filming. Luckily, the director had the funds to rent a real boat. Otherwise, everyone here would have been doomed. At dawn, just before leaving, I glanced once more at Emily's tent. They hadn't stepped out all night. I was looking forward to the shock on their faces when they emerged to find an empty village in raging floodwaters. My assistant cautiously reminded me, "Madame Shu, Mr. Liu is still in Emily's tent. Should we call them? The water level is already waist deep." As the floodwaters surged, I told my assistant, "You go first. I'll call them," knowing it was a matter of life and death. My assistant didn't hesitate to leave. I approached their tent and lifted the flap with a kick. Even though their tent was on higher ground, a single push was enough for the flood to rush in and overturn it. "Aaron Liu, Emily Rong, thank me. I've given you the perfect chance to face life's challenges together." As I reached the boat, it was already full. "Uncle Lin, hurry. The last spot is yours." Yes, that final spot had been mine in the past life. Had I not stayed behind waiting for Aaron, he would never have had the chance to rescue me. From the boat, I watched Aaron and Emily desperately rushing toward us from the distance. In this life or death moment, there was no room left for them on the boat. The storm raged on as floodwaters mixed with mud and debris. Aaron and Emily clung to each other, drifting in the water. "Uncle Lin, pull us up," Aaron cried out. I looked down at Aaron Liu's handsome, refined face. He appeared so disheveled, once so proud and untouchable, now like a fallen angel. His current pitiful state evoked no sympathy from me. I pressed my trembling fingers against my abdomen, restraining my anger, and calmly said, "But there's no more space here. How exactly do you expect me to save you?" Emily Rong, clinging to him like a delicate, Helpless flower, whispered Aaron. I'm so cold. Don't worry. Uncle Lin will definitely save us. Everyone on the boat was watching my husband, the once mighty CO Aaron Liu, now embracing Emily tenderly. The crowd was in a frenzy, like ants on a hot pan. Finally, someone found the last life ring. Miss Shu, we have a life ring here. It can save Mr. Liu, they shouted. Ah, yes. It was this very life ring that once forced Aaron into a painful decision, a regret that haunted him for life. Now, I would make him choose again. I tossed the life ring back to Aaron and suppressed the smirk creeping onto my lips. What a pity. It can only save one person. The people on the boat yelled desperately. Mr. Liu, use the life ring. The floodwaters are deadly. But that wasn't enough. To prepare for my upcoming divorce and widowhood, I signaled my assistant with a glance to start a live stream. The headline read, "A Real-Life Titanic." And we spent another 100,000 to boost its popularity. Within moments, it was trending. Emily's eyes suddenly reddened, tears welling up and falling silently. Aaron, I love you. I was willing to sacrifice everything for you. But lately, I've been feeling nauseous. It's probably from that time 2 months ago. Her words made Aaron's expression change drastically, and the internet exploded. Yet, Aaron was still unaware that everything was being broadcast live. He mistakenly thought my assistant was just recording a video. Aaron hesitated, as expected, but I wasn't going to let him off that easily. My assistant quickly chimed in. Oh, Mr. Liu, the entire internet knows that Emily is your beloved campus sweetheart. Are you really going to let her drown? She's so delicate and utterly dependent on you. The viewers are watching. How can you not save her? Don't make a choice you'll regret later. The water level was rising rapidly, waves crashing loudly around us. Aaron Liu, you self-righteous moral saint. Now that the choice is between you and Emily, let's see how you handle it. Asterisk. The number of viewers in the live stream skyrocketed to over 1 million. Everyone was eager to see the once powerful CO Aaron Liu struggle to survive. This spectacle was far more thrilling than any survival show. Aaron's face darkened with rage, his eyes blazing. Who gave you permission to film this? Are you seeking death? He thought my assistant was just filming a regular video, unaware it was a live stream. Things were getting interesting. This time, I would force Aaron Liu to reveal his true colors and expose him to the entire internet. The freezing water seeped into Emily's clothes, her face as pale as a sheet as she trembled violently. Aaron, can you give me the life ring? I don't want to die, she pleaded, her thin frame clinging to Aaron. I curled my lips into a slight smile. Aaron Liu, now that your own life is on the line, let's see how you choose. Just as I predicted, he couldn't make a decision quickly. Meanwhile, the number of viewers continued to climb past 1 million, everyone waiting to see how Aaron Liu would survive. In a cold, emotionless tone, I announced to the entire boat, I will pay $1 million to anyone willing to give up their spot on the boat. Aaron Liu was a businessman, cold and calculating. Even amidst the chaos, he analyzed the situation like he was at the negotiating table, deciding whose life to buy. $1 million was more than enough to catch the eye of ordinary people, a life-changing sum for them. The crowd gasped. The villagers' eyes gleamed, but their excitement quickly turned into anger. The viewers in the live stream began to curse Aaron Liu, calling him a heartless capitalist. He was treating the lives on the boat as disposable. One by one, the villagers stirred restlessly, with some skilled swimmers even beginning to strip off their jackets, preparing to jump into the water for the money. I shot my assistant a glance, and she quickly intervened. Wait, aren't your lives worth anything? What's the point of earning money if you won't live to spend it? And can you really trust his words without any proof? He hasn't paid yet, and you're already rushing to die for him. If you die, who will hold him accountable? She shouted. That moment, a flash of lightning split the sky, followed by a deafening crash of thunder. The crowd fell silent, and the smile on Aaron's face disappeared. In a desperate move, Aaron raised the offer to $5 million. $5 million for 2 spots. As long as someone is willing to jump, I'll transfer the money immediately, he shouted. For the first time, a trace of panic appeared on Aaron's usually calm face. Despite his desperation, He clung tightly to Emily's waist, displaying a show of deep affection. But nobody believed him anymore. For the villagers, 5 million was an unimaginable fortune. Yet, the larger the sum, the less they trusted it. The film crew knew Aaron Liu's ruthless nature all too well. In a life-or-death situation, who would dare to risk it all? Everyone shook their heads and stayed put. Mr. Liu, it's pointless to waste your breath. No amount of money is worth more than a life. That's right. With waves this big, who would dare jump? Aaron's face grew paler, his expression increasingly grim. And just when it seemed like all hope was lost, the life ring in Aaron Liu's hand was suddenly snatched away. Without a second thought, Emily Roan grabbed it and secured it around herself. Emily, you. Aaron's eyes widened in shock, his usually cold expression showing a rare trace of pain. In a hoarse voice, he demanded, "Why did you do this? Isn't it obvious? To survive." She snapped. I suppressed the urge to smile, feeling a dark sense of satisfaction. Aaron, how does it feel to be betrayed by your precious white moonlight? Aaron, I'm sorry. Emily's voice trembled. I did this for our child. I want to live. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she pleaded. A fortune teller once told me that I would only ever bear sons, never daughters. If I weren't pregnant with our son, I would rather die and give you the life ring. But now, I'm carrying a child. 2 lives depend on me. Aaron, this is our son. Hearing this, Aaron Liu was at a loss. He didn't want to die, but he was someone who always believed that only sons were worth anything. In the past, he never once hid his disappointment that our daughter Luna was not a boy. Desperate, Aaron resorted to threatening the crew, leveraging his position as an investor. But it was futile. The workers valued their lives too much to heed his threats. Now completely cornered, Aaron's eyes turned dangerously toward me. Lin Shu, you don't want to watch me die, do you? You will save me, won't you? I shrugged, feigning regret. But I can't save you. Aaron gritted his teeth, his gaze boring into me. No, you have a way to save me, he said, his tone so certain it sent chills down my spine. My heart sank, and I stared coldly at him as he demanded, "Get down here and give me your spot." His entitled tone was infuriating. Did he really think I loved him enough to die for him? I haven't even begun to avenge my past life's grievances. Aaron Liu, who gave you the confidence to think I would sacrifice myself for you? I retorted sharply. Aaron's face twisted with rage as he glared at me. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have come here and gotten into this mess, he said icily. This is all your fault. If I die, you won't escape responsibility. Once, I had seen Aaron Liu as my childhood friend, my confidant, my lover. But when all those illusions shattered, all that was left was Aaron Liu, a man with no aura, no charm. Is it my fault you were visiting Emily's tent under the pretense of checking on me? I exposed him mercilessly. The person you should blame is yourself, not me. I already gave you the life ring, but you couldn't keep hold of it. What more can I do? Go tell your heartfelt regrets to the king of hell. The viewers in the live stream were stunned, the chat exploding with comments. Watching the flood of messages, I felt a wave of satisfaction wash over me. Having failed to get help from me, Aaron turned his focus back to Emily. There was only one life ring, and only one of them could survive. The floodwaters surged around us, and no one on the boat was willing to give up their spot. Aaron's conflicted gaze shifted to Emily, clenching his fists. He hesitated. Emily's eyes filled with tears, panic written all over her face. Aaron, I think our baby isn't going to make it. I can feel him slipping away. Aaron, don't you want him to live? The mention of a child was the only thing that could sway Aaron. But he didn't know that I, too, was carrying his child. This time, a daughter who belonged to me alone, with nothing to do with him. As for whether Emily's so-called son was really Aaron's, who could say? My assistant leaned close to whisper, Ms. Shu, Emily isn't what she seems. Mr. Liu is no match for her. I curved my lips into a faint smile. Oh, I know, I replied. Everyone in the industry knows. Emily is famous for her love of men, whether they're rich, handsome, or have influence. As long as they have one of those qualities, she's willing to be with them. She flits among men like a butterfly. And Aaron is just one of her conquests. The so-called child is merely her bargaining chip to survive. But perhaps because of his infatuation with his white moonlight, Aaron stubbornly believed the child was his. Determined, he swam away on his own, watching his figure fade into the distance. I narrowed my eyes. Aaron, I hope you survive this time, just so you can see for yourself whose child Emily is really carrying. In this flood, most lives were saved. After the waters receded, a search party scoured the area to locate Aaron, dead or alive. After an entire day of searching, they finally found him. It seemed he managed to swim and was barely clinging to life. After being rushed to the hospital, Aaron spent 3 days and nights in the ICU. Not once did I visit him. I was too busy with my filming schedule. Only when I heard that Aaron Lou had miraculously survived did I remember. I needed to finalize our divorce. As I approached his hospital room door, I heard Emily Rong's sobbing voice. Aaron, you've finally woken up. You have no idea how worried I was. I've been so scared these past few days. I didn't mean to take the life ring. It was all for our son. Aaron, you'll forgive me, won't you? I glanced over and saw a look of deep affection appear on Aaron Lou's pale, sickly face. He gently held Emily's hands, his voice soft and soothing. Emily, I never blamed you. You're a mother. I understand your desire to protect our son. Aaron, you don't know how cruel Lin Shu was. Emily continued tearfully. That day, he started a live stream, and we were both mercilessly attacked by clueless keyboard warriors. Aaron, who was weak and frail, suddenly sat up in shock, his face as white as a sheet. What did you say? He asked, his voice hoarse. He rubbed his temples, eyes filled with disbelief. Lin Shu dared to livestream this? Is he insane? Doesn't he realize how much damage this could do to the company? I couldn't help but laugh. Does Aaron really not know that his company's stocks have already plummeted? I pushed open the door and walked in, leaving the exhausted, bedridden man behind. I'm not insane. Aaron, if anyone's going crazy, it should be your PR team. This time, there's no saving your public image. For days, Aaron's act of trying to buy lives with money had been trending at the top of the news. His eyes darkened with resentment. Lin Shu, what benefit did you gain from this? Did you deliberately leave us to drown, enjoying the sight of Emily and me struggling in the flood? That moment, Aaron's mother burst into the room. Aaron, how can you speak to Lin Shu like that? Don't you realize that all of this is your fault? And as for this Miss Rong, you need to cut ties with her immediately and apologize to Lin Shu. Mrs. Liu shot a quick glance at Aaron, signaling him to soften his stance with me. In my past life, Mrs. Liu and Aaron were experts at playing good cop, bad cop. One would coax, while the other would criticize, extorting endless resources from my family. But Aaron remained steadfast, gripping Emily's hands firmly. Mother, Emily is pregnant with my child, your long-desired grandson. I have to give her a home. Those words hit me hard. I wasn't angry for myself but felt a deep sadness for Luna. In our previous life, Luna tried so hard to win the Liu family's approval, but they ignored her because she was a girl. Aaron never once considered giving Luna a loving family or being a good father. Calmly, I reached into my bag, pulled out the divorce papers, and placed them in front of him. Perfect timing. Let's get divorced. Mrs. Liu's face turned livid, her voice trembling. Aaron, are you out of your mind? Has the flood scrambled your brain? You want to give her a home. But what about Lin Shu? With a sharp glint in her eye, she turned to me and said, Lin, don't worry. I will handle this. Let's forget about you not saving him. But a divorce? That's out of the question. Aaron's eyes flickered with a hint of hesitation. But after staring at the divorce agreement for a few seconds, he finally spoke. Fine. I agree to the divorce. Mrs. Liu couldn't hold back her fury. Aaron Liu, are you insane? Our marriage was a business alliance, less than a year old. Back then, my father, seeing how much I loved Aaron, agreed to help the Liu family navigate their crises. That's how their company managed to return to stable operations. But if we divorce, I will withdraw my shares and funds. What happens to Aaron's company after that? Who knows? Amidst Mrs. Liu's frantic scolding, Aaron remained expressionless as he signed the divorce papers. Before leaving, I heard him say coldly, "So what if the company loses the Lin family's support? My child cannot live without me. Emily is the woman I truly want to marry. I'm willing to give up everything for her and our child." With the divorce finalized, I focused even more on my work. The film I was working on was nearing completion. Jo-young, an award-winning actor, was making a cameo. During filming, he was often seen flirting with Emily, and the entire crew knew about their unusual relationship. Some even witnessed them embracing and kissing, but I pretended not to notice. Asterisk let him wear his green hat. It's none of my business. Asterisk the only one still in the dark was Aaron, the so-called pure love warrior. In our previous life, I only learned after our marriage that Emily had been his white moonlight since college. What I never understood was why, if he loved her so deeply, he chose to marry me right after graduation. I placed my hand gently on my abdomen. In this life, my Luna would be born healthy and strong. Once she was born, I had no intention of letting Aaron know. He didn't deserve to be her father, neither biologically nor in name. On the day the film wrapped, while I was resting on set, I saw Aaron step out of a car and walk toward me. He had a spring in his step, his lips curving slightly, clearly in a good mood. What brings Aaron Liu here today? I wondered, as he approached me with a deliberate air. Standing right in front of me, he announced, "I'm here to propose to Emily. She's pregnant with my son, and she's due in a few months. I must give her a proper status. I can't let my son be born a bastard." I couldn't help but burst into laughter. The entire film crew was watching. "I wish you the best of luck with your proposal. Emily Rong is pure, innocent, gentle, and virtuous. A good woman," I said. Aaron Liu's cold, handsome features softened immediately, a gentle warmth spreading across his face at the mention of Emily. Then, turning to me, his expression changed. "Lin Shu, you really need to fix your attitude, or no man will ever want you." The corners of my lips curled slightly. I stared at Aaron with a cold, expressionless gaze. Why would I care whether men want me or not? They should consider it a privilege to get close to me, I retorted. Then, raising an eyebrow, I added, "And do you seriously believe that Emily is carrying your child?" Aaron's face darkened instantly, his expression turning icy. "Lin Shu, watch your words. Of course, it's my child she's carrying." He was so convinced. Then I was ready to sit back with popcorn and watch the show unfold. Aaron strode away angrily, clearly displeased. He was deliberately keeping quiet about the fact that Emily hadn't shown her face since she arrived on set and went straight to the trailer. My assistant whispered to me excitedly, "Miss Shu, I discovered something today. I stumbled upon a secret." She leaned in and whispered a few words into my ear. I raised my eyebrows and smiled knowingly. The wrap-up scene was filmed late into the night. To celebrate, the director had arranged for a grand display of fireworks. As the colorful explosions lit up the sky, Aaron Liu approached slowly, each step filled with purpose. He walked straight to Emily, and under the brilliant display, he knelt on one knee and presented a ring worth millions. "Emily, I never knew how to make you happy before and always ended up upsetting you. But now, I've learned how to love. I want to give you a home, a family, a place for our child," Aaron declared with determination. The entire crowd was stunned into silence. Everyone knew about Emily's relationship with Jo-young, and the tangled web of this love triangle made it hard for anyone to take sides. Emily looked flustered, while Jo-young stood off to the side, looking like a spectator enjoying the drama. "Emily, will you marry me?" Aaron asked, his voice unwavering. Emily remained silent, her gaze occasionally drifting towards Jo-young. As the silence dragged on, Aaron's expression grew more anxious. Just then, the screen behind them suddenly lit up, the harsh brightness drawing everyone's attention. A video began to play. Emily's voice filled the air. "Jo-young, I'm pregnant with your child. You will love me, won't you?" The entire crowd was stunned. Aaron's eyes, which had been filled with joy, turned ice cold. He whipped around to face the screen, where Emily and Jo-young were embracing intimately. In that instant, Aaron's composure shattered, his expression twisting in disbelief and utter devastation. In the video, Emily leaned dependently against Zhou Yang, their affectionate behavior like an invisible slap across Aaron's face. And the worst was yet to come. Zhou Yang laughed mockingly and asked, "Whose child is it?" "Really? Of course it's yours," Emily replied without hesitation. "The baby is already 3 months along. Who else could it be? Don't believe those online videos. When the flood hit, I had to lie to that fool and say the child was his. Otherwise, why would he save me?" I almost burst out laughing. As expected, Aaron Liu was living in a world where only he was hurt. Aaron's eyes turned bloodshot, filled with pain. "Emily, so all along, you've been lying to me? The child was never mine." Emily's eyes reddened, tears streaming down her cheeks as she pitifully pleaded, "Aaron, I truly love you. I was only playing around with the others." Who would believe that nonsense? At this point, Emily was desperately trying to win Aaron back, while Zhou Yang, the playboy, couldn't care less. Aaron's proposal had failed spectacularly. The news that he had been cheated on after a hasty divorce spread like wildfire. Now, the entire internet was abuzz with discussions about Aaron Liu's downfall. The scandal not only tarnished his personal reputation, but also dealt a severe blow to his company's image. With public sentiment turning overwhelmingly negative, the company's stock plummeted. Comments flooded in. Aaron Liu rejected the top-tier Queen Lin Shu, only to fall for a manipulative woman like Emily Rong. No wonder his company's products are subpar. Without Lin Shu's endorsement, they had nothing going for them. The scandal continued to escalate. And once the storm began, it was impossible to calm. Within just 1 month, Aaron's company suffered unprecedented losses. Now, I was curious to see how long he could survive without my support. A month later, after finishing an outdoor shoot, I returned home to find Aaron waiting at my doorstep. He looked at me, his voice trembling. "Lin Shu, can you help me? Please." It was obvious he hadn't been resting well. Exhaustion was etched into his features. I stared at him coldly, my voice frigid. "Help you with what? The company's shares are crashing. If this continues, we're going to face even more serious consequences. Lin Shu, you're the only one who can help me now," he pleaded, desperation clear in his eyes. I gave a faint smile. "Mr. Liu, why not seek help from Emily? I'm sure she'd be happy to assist you. Only when you're backed into a corner do you think of me. But back when you were basking in wealth and glory, your heart was fully devoted to Emily." At the mention of Emily, Aaron Liu's expression immediately darkened. He took a deep breath, suppressing his frustration, and spoke calmly. "Lin Shu, you know very well that Emily can't help me. Only your family's resources can. Even merging our companies would be fine, as long as you agree." It was clear that Aaron's company was in dire straits. Otherwise, he would never have humbled himself like this. But I had no intention of taking over a rotten company. "No thanks. It's too filthy," I said coldly. Aaron's eyes widened, and anger flashed across his once handsome face. "What do you mean by that?" "Exactly what I said. It's not the company that's dirty. It's you," I retorted. If I were to help him now, I'd be entangled with him for the rest of my life. Instead, I'd rather focus on expanding my own empire. My business is thriving. Why should I take on someone else's mess? From that day on, I never saw Aaron again. My career soared, and my baby girl, Luna, was growing healthily inside me, my pregnancy beginning to show. Although I tried to keep my private life under wraps, the paparazzi still managed to snap photos of me, sending rumors of my pregnancy trending online. Speculation swirled about whether I'd reconcile with Aaron for the child's sake. The news quickly reached Aaron's ears. We happened to meet at an event, where he was busy trying to reconnect with old business partners and secure funds. He had completely let go of his dignity. Even being rejected didn't faze him anymore. Gone was the powerful figure from our past life, who had everyone dancing to his tune. Our eyes met, and I immediately turned to leave. But Aaron rushed over to block my way. Lin Shu, he called out desperately. "You're pregnant, aren't you? It's my child, isn't it?" I narrowed my eyes, looking calmly at his eager expression. In our past life, when Luna was born, Aaron had shown no interest. On the day I went into labor, he was in a meeting. The birth was difficult. I nearly died on the operating table from severe bleeding. As a husband and a father, he had completely abandoned us. Now, his concern only seemed hypocritical. Lin Shu, I know this is my child. For the sake of the baby, can't you forgive me this once? He pleaded. I couldn't suppress a derisive laugh. Hatred surged within me, and before I could stop myself, I slapped him hard across the face. The sharp sound of the slap drew everyone's attention. Aaron turned his face, his eyes cold as ice. He glared at me with fury simmering beneath the surface. In a low voice, he demanded, "What did I say wrong? This is my child. For the child's sake, why can't you just endure it? I'll treat you well from now on." Endure? I scoffed, crossing my arms and smiling coldly. Aaron Liu, tell me, why should I endure anything? I have money. I have a thriving career. And once my child is born, I can provide the best life for her. She will be treated like a princess by everyone around her. Why would I humble myself in front of you? You think too highly of yourself. I continued with a calm smile. Once the baby is born, she will have nothing to do with you. I can be both her mother and her father. Without you, she will be far happier. Stunned into silence, Aaron clenched his fists, his face twisting with suppressed rage. As I walked past him, I leaned in and whispered, "By the way, I forgot to tell you, she will take my last name. Luna will no longer be Lu Ning, but my precious Lin Luna." His face contorted with an expression more painful than the slap I'd given him, but I loved watching him like this. The more desperate and miserable he was, the more satisfying it was. Since my film's release, it had become a nationwide sensation. My acting was widely praised, and the public couldn't get enough. Lin Jie's face is gorgeous. Her figure is stunning, and she's got real acting chops. We love her. She's become even more powerful after leaving that man. However, rumors still circulated. Will Lin Jie reconcile with Aaron for the sake of the child? The internet was buzzing with speculation. During a promotional event, reporters asked me directly, "Ms. Lin, will you be getting back together with Mr. Liu?" Facing the camera, I responded calmly, "I have never considered getting back together. A child is a child, and I am me." Here, I want to tell all my female fans, even if you get pregnant and have a child, never lose yourself. Those words were as much a reminder to myself as they were to others. I regretted the years I wasted in my past life, leaving my career behind for love. A few months later, I heard the news about Aaron Liu's bankruptcy. His downfall was no surprise to me. Without the financial backing from my family, the Liu Corporation couldn't sustain itself. Cutting off losses was the best outcome. However, I hadn't expected him to hold on for as long as he did. Now, he was entangled in financial disputes, drowning in debt he couldn't repay, and facing lawsuits. The court had already put the Liu Corporation's headquarters up for auction. To avoid any risks of complications during my pregnancy, I had stopped all activities and stayed home, focusing on resting and waiting for Luna's arrival. At the same time, I instructed my assistant to monitor the auction closely. Finally, I succeeded in acquiring the Liu Corporation's building. The day I arrived at the company, I saw Aaron being escorted away by the police. "Lin Shu, you came to save me, didn't you?" he shouted as he was about to be shoved into the police car. I took off my sunglasses and looked at him coolly. "I'm the legal owner now," I replied, glancing at him with a faint smile. "From now on, this place no longer carries the Liu name." Aaron's expression changed dramatically. His eyes were filled with a complex mix of hatred and disbelief. "You have the money, but you still wouldn't save me. Lin Shu, do you really hate me that much?" "Oh, I hate you. All right," I said with a cold laugh. "Letting you rot in prison is being merciful. If it weren't for the law, I would have had someone finish you off long ago. That way, my precious Luna would never have to worry about being bullied by a worthless father like you." Aaron was imprisoned for his financial crimes, and I went on to establish my own company. Not only that, but I was even nominated for Best Actress. That day, our film crew gathered to celebrate, and I found myself sitting next to Emily Rong. When I won the Golden Horse Award for Best Actress, I caught a fleeting look of envy in her eyes, despite her efforts to hide it. "Congratulations, Ms. Lin. she said with a forced smile. Your career is thriving. And your baby is about to be born. I returned her smile, whispering, thank you. But what about your baby? Emily had been forced to abort her child. Zhou Yang refused to take responsibility, and his agency would never allow him to jeopardize his career for a baby. Emily had no choice but to end the pregnancy. Her smile stiffened. I walked up to the stage to accept my trophy. This award had been a lifelong dream, something I had regretted missing out on before. But now, I had finally achieved it, and my life felt complete. I was grateful to exist in this world, no longer just a fleeting dream. This trophy was proof of Luna's presence with me. In this lifetime, she would always be by my side. The day Luna was born was a mix of excitement and anticipation. With all the precautions I had taken, I avoided the complications of my past life. I gave birth to Luna smoothly. She was as sweet and lovely as before, with a spark of intelligence that was uncanny. Before she even turned one, she had already started speaking. When she called out "Mama" for the first time, my heart raced with joy and disbelief, and tears streamed down my face. The happiness of regaining something precious after losing it was indescribable. Luna became the center of my world. Adored by everyone in the company, she was my most cherished family member. But while I was basking in happiness, others were not as fortunate. In the same year Luna was born, Emily Rong fell out of favor in the entertainment industry after offending a powerful figure. Her lack of acting skills, combined with her arrogance at events, led to her being blacklisted. She disappeared from the public eye, as if she had never existed. Seasons changed, and soon it was Luna's 7th birthday. I threw her a grand celebration at the most luxurious 5-star hotel in the city. She stood before a towering 7-layer cake. Her eyes closed as she blew out the candles. A bright smile spread across her chubby cheeks, dimples forming as she grinned. Mommy, you're not just my mom. You're also my dad. You're Luna's favorite person in the whole world. Since her birth, Luna had never asked for a father. I had given her all the love she needed. In her eyes, I was more than enough. The candlelight reflected on her adorable face, making her eyes sparkle as she whispered, I want to be with Mommy forever. Overwhelmed with emotion, I hugged her tightly. Luna, do you want to hear Mommy sing for you? She kissed my cheek and nodded eagerly, holding the microphone. I stood on the stage and sang 7 children's songs as a special birthday gift to her. The melodies filled the air, carrying my endless blessings for my daughter. In my heart, I made a silent prayer. May my Luna live a life full of peace and joy, free from any worries.